Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all will be fine by the grace of Allah. Before formally starting our lecture, let's reiterate our objective of the course. The objective of the course are to develop a web-based application and its deployment. We must keep in mind our objective to successfully learn how to develop web applications. Now we start formally our lecture. Learning objective of our lecture are as follows: introduction to .NET, working of .NET, .NET features, .NET components, Common Language Runtime CLR, components of CLR, and class library. Summary of our last lecture that we have covered in third lecture: web frameworks and Microsoft framework, context in which ASP.NET Core MVC exists, how it has evolved from web forms and the original ASP.NET MVC framework, describe the benefit of using the ASP.NET Core MVC. Now we also discuss the following are online resources that we have consulted for the preparation of this lecture. Now let's start. .NET platform. What is a .NET framework? .NET framework is very important component of Microsoft Windows that is used for running and creating application for next generation, and it is also used to create services which are based on XML web. This framework possesses an ability to deliver value to your business with a much faster time of marketing. In addition, it also provides services of reduced cost and highly improved flexibility system. Following are the few of the reasons why we are using .NET framework. Number one is reliability, similarly performance, productivity, security, integration, deployment. Using .NET framework you can easily deploy your web application. Similarly, it provides a lot of support for XML. These are the few of the reasons why have we chosen .NET framework. .NET is a free cross-platform open source developer platform made up of tools, programming languages, and libraries for building many different types of application. Now, first of all, we must know what does free means here, cross platform means, and open source mean. First of all, we discuss what is a platform. Platform simply is a combination of operating system architecture and CPU architecture, or in other words, we can say the type of the CPU or the hardware on which a given operating system or applications run is called a platform. An example of common platform is Microsoft Windows running on the x86 architecture. Here Microsoft Windows is the operating system and x86 architecture is the underlying CPU. Similarly, other well-known desktop computer platforms include Linux, Unix, Mac OS, all of which themselves are cross-platform. Now, if you we cleared the concept of platform. Next we are going to discuss what does free means here. फ्री एंड ओपन सोर्स सॉफ्टवेयर. अब फ्री एंड ओपन सोर्स सॉफ्टवेयर क्या होते हैं? फ्री एंड ओपन सोर्स सॉफ्टवेयर आर दो सॉफ्टवेयर, बोथ free software and open source software. That means anyone is freely licensed to use, copy, study and change the software in any way. कोई भी शख्स विदाउट लाइसेंस इन सॉफ्टवेयर को यूज कर सकता है, कॉपी कर सकता है, स्टडी कर सकता है और चेंज कर सकता है. एंड the source code is openly shared so that people are encouraged to voluntarily improve the design of the software. This is in contrast to proprietary software, where the software is under restrictive copyright licensing and the source code is usually hidden from the user. Means free and open source software are very good for the future development. What was the purpose behind the development of .NET platform? The purpose is very simple. All previous languages are focused. All previous languages are focused towards the development of desktop applications. But nowadays paradigm has been changed rapidly and we are moving towards web-based application. The other purpose was to develop a code execution environment and a code development environment. We need an environment where we can execute our programs and we can develop our programs. This was the fundamental purpose of Microsoft behind the creation of this network platform. With .NET you can use multiple languages, editors and libraries to build for web, mobile, desktop, gaming and IoT, means Internet of Things application. It provides a runtime environment that is called the Common Language Runtime or simply CLR, which runs the code. This was the purpose behind the development of .NET platform and provide services that makes the development process easier. In next we will check what sorts of development services this framework provides to us. .NET framework features. It is a general purpose development platform having following feature: support for multiple programming languages, and multiple programming languages include C#, F# and Visual Basic or any other .NET compliant programming language. Next feature is cross platform. Mean any programming language you code will run natively on any compatible operating system, and it has different .NET implementation. Number one, .NET Core. .NET Core provides us cross-platform facilities for websites, server and console apps on Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Similarly, another flavor is .NET Framework. The .NET Framework supports website services, desktop application and more on Windows only operating system. Last implementation is Xamarin or Mono for running apps on all the major mobile operating system. It also provides libraries to extend the functionality of base class library lot of community is helping Microsoft to extend its functionality, and NuGet is a package manager built specifically for .NET that contains over 90,000 packages. Number of packages 90,000 packages that are supporting .NET framework. It provides programming tools, for example Visual Studio, IDE या integrated development environment, or .NET compliant compilers, debuggers, web development server side technologies such as ASP.NET and Window Communication Foundation. These are few of the programming tools that are the feature of .NET framework. Overview of .NET framework components, means summary of .NET framework components. At the top is the .NET framework. It has two main components. One is called Common Language Runtime and other is called Framework Class Library, FCL, or Base Class Library, or Class Library simply. Next, CLR is further divided into three components. Number one, CLI, Common Language Infrastructure. Next is garbage collector called GC, and third one is just-in-time compiler, JIT. Now the common language infrastructure is further divided into two components, that's CLS, Common Language Specification, CTS, Common Type System. In the rest of the lecture we will try to cover all these components of .NET framework. .NET feature interaction. How .NET features interact with each other. As we discussed previously, there are three features component. Number one is programming tools, number second is CLR, and number third is base class library. And the flow is very simple. Programming tools are used to produce source code, and that source code is compiled to another code by using common language runtime, and that compiled code uses base class libraries to support the development of the web application. Architecture of .NET framework, as already stated, it has two major components. One is CLR, Common Language Runtime, and another is class library. Now CLR is an execution engine that manages the life cycle and executes .NET applications, means code of .NET application. As previously said, to make the development process easier, it provides services like thread management, memory management, and garbage collection, type safety, exception handling, and more. Now let's see how it provides these services. The class library. Class library consists of types of string, dates, number, etc. for common functionality. Class library also provides a set of APIs for reading, writing, connecting to database, trying, and more. Working of .NET. This picture depicts how .NET frameworks works. Now applications are written in the following language, that is C#, F#, or Visual Basic. Language specific compiler compiles the source code into intermediate language, also called Common Intermediate Language or Microsoft Intermediate Language MSIL, or uh, simply Intermediate Language. After compilation, it produces a portable execution file along with its metadata. In next few moments, we will discuss what is metadata. The information about the environment, programming language, its version, and what class libraries will be used for this code are stored in the form of metadata. As I told you, it compiles to intermediate language, various languages, any of the .NET compliant language, and the code generated, that is called Microsoft Intermediate Language code. It is machine independent code, and this compiled code is stored in assemblies, in files also called assemblies, having extension .dll or .exe. Now when an application runs, the CLR takes the assembly. CLR takes the assembly, the file produced by that contains common intermediate language, yeah, Microsoft Intermediate Language code. This is provided to the CLR, and CLR checks its security requirements. If they are met, the CLR perform just in time compilation to convert the intermediate language code to native machine code, machine instruction that can be executed on the specific architecture of the computer on which it is running. This is the simple how .NET framework works. Now let's see what are the two main components of .NET, that are common language runtime and class library. Now we are discussing what is CLR. CLR manages the execution of program. As already told you, these programs are written in any language that uses the .NET framework. The language can be C#, F# or Visual Basic .NET or any other .NET compliant language. What is the main function of the CLR? CLR converts the managed code into native code and then execute the program. This is the main function of CLR. What it does, it converts the managed code. Now let's see what is a managed code. The code that is generated into the form of MSIL is called managed code, and that managed code is machine independent. It is then translated into native code or machine code and then execute the program. CLR performs two main function. Number one is conversion of managed code into native code and execution of the program, as CLR is an execution environment. In other words, we can say it's a virtual machine component, just like Java runtime or Java virtual machine, which also manages the execution of program. And CLR is the heart of the .NET framework. CLR works as a layer between operating system and the application, and those application written in .NET languages that conforms to common language specification. We will discuss what is CLS in few minutes. When .NET application is executed, at the time control will go to operating system. Then operating system create a process to load CLR, and this process is called runtime host. This process is called runtime host, and runtime host differ from application to application. In case of desktop application, the API function called core bind to runtime, and for web-based application the runtime host is ASP.NET Worker Process, ASP.NET WP.exe. And what do we mean by the word common in common language runtime? Common language runtime supports more than 60 languages, and these more than 60 languages all are .NET compliant. It means an application written in a language such as C# will be able to run on any piece of hardware that supports .NET. So if you are a developer using C# to write the code for your app, you know it will be able to run on anything that supports .NET. It means if you have written your code in .NET, then your application will be executed on any platforms, on any operating system having any hardware, provided it has the common language runtime, and that common language runtime converts the C# managed code, that is converted into MSIL into native code. Now let's see what is the position of CLR in the execution environment. As you can see, at the bottom is operating system and hardware. This operating system and hardware is covered by runtime, that is called CLR, and that CLR is supported by class libraries, thousands classes that are used and helpful for the creation of .NET application. And the applications those are controlled by runtime are considered as managed application. Similarly, the applications those are not covered by .NET are considered as unmanaged applications. Next, let's see overview of main components of CLR. CLR have, as previously told, first of all we will write our source code. That source code will be compiled by a particular language compiler that translate that code into MSIL code, means Microsoft Intermediate Language Code, along with the metadata, the information regarding other objects. This MSIL along with the metadata is passed to just-in-time compiler. That just-in-time compiler compiles it into native code that is understood by the underlying platform. Now let's see what is unmanaged code. As we have previously, as I told you, there is a managed code. Now let's see what is unmanaged code. Before .NET development, the programming language like .com components and Win32 API do not generate the MSIL code, Microsoft Intermediate Language Code. So these are not managed by CLR, rather managed by operating system, which is called unmanaged code. This is the difference between managed code and unmanaged code. Components of CLR. Common language runtime have following 4 components. Number 1 is common language specification. Number 2 is common type system. Number 3 is garbage collection. And last is just-in-time compiler or just-in-time compilation. Let's see one by one what is CLS. It was a dream of Microsoft to unite all different languages into one umbrella, and common language specification is one step towards achieving that dream. Now, what is CLS? CLS, Common Language Specification, is responsible for converting the different .NET programming language syntactically rules and regulation into CLR understandable format. Let's further clear it. CLR is a document that says how computer programs can be turned into CIL or MSIL. Means common language specification tells us how we can computer other computer programs into MSIL, where several languages use the same MSIL. Different part of a program can be written in different languages, but with the help of common language specification, we can convert the different languages program into one MSIL. And Microsoft uses common language specification to convert the source code into a particular MSIL. CLS is a set of basic language features that .NET language needed to develop application and services which are compatible with .NET framework. It provides the language interoperability. How it provides language interoperability? As I previously cleared, there is a managed code and another is unmanaged code. Code that is executed by CLR is called managed code, and for managed code, CLR provides three .NET facility. Number one, code access security, exception handling, and automatic memory management. And what about unmanaged code? As I previously told, it is compiled into native machine language that targets a specific system. It is not managed or converted by CLR. That's why it is called unmanaged code. Now, another component of CLR, common language runtime, is common type system. Common type system, it defines a subset of CLS defines a subset of common type system. Means common language specification defines a subset of common type system. What is common type system? Common type system is the component of CLR through which .NET framework provides support for multiple languages with the help of CTS, that is common across all the languages. Two CTS compliant languages do not require type conversion when calling code written in one language from within the code written in other languages. CTS also provides a base set of data types for all the languages supported by .NET framework. This means that the size of integer and long variable is same across all .NET compliant programming languages. आप जिस भी प्रोग्रामिंग को जो भी .NET से कंप्लाइंट है उसको यूज करेंगे, तो जो इंटीजर का साइज एक जगह पर है दूसरी जगह पर भी इंटीजर का क्या होगा, वही साइज होगा, जिसकी वजह से ये कॉमन टाइप सिस्टम प्रोवाइड्स अस interoperability and common standard. Common type system support two general categories of types. Number one is value type, number second is reference type. Now let's see what is value type and what is reference type. Value types will directly store the value into the memory location, and that memory location either can be allocated on the stack or allocated inline in structure. And CLR allocates memory for these at compile times. Next is reference type. Reference type will contain a memory address of value. As far as value type is concerned, value types are directly stored in the memory location, but reference types contains a memory of value because the reference type would not store the variable value directly in memory and its memory allocated on the heap. Two further differences: in case of value type, the memory is allocated on the stack. As far as reference types are concerned, memory is allocated on the heap data structure. Similarly, the memory for value types is allocated at compile time. As far as reference types are concerned, memory is allocated at runtime. These are the differences between value types and reference type, and in rest of the course we will discuss in very much detail the value type and reference type. Next component of common language runtime is garbage collector or GC. Garbage collector provides the automatic memory management feature. How it manages memory? Now discuss how it manages memory. Let's suppose there is no garbage collector, then the programmers have to write the memory management code, which will be a kind of overhead on programmers because it automatically maintains the objects that are not in used. For example, when a program creates an object, the object takes up the memory. Later, when the program has no more references to that object, the object's memory becomes unreachable, inaccessible, but it is not immediately freed. मिसाल के तौर पे आपका प्रोग्राम एक ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट करता है और वो ऑब्जेक्ट जब क्रिएट होता है तो मेमोरी में कोई ना कोई स्पेस वो लेता है. बाद में प्रोग्राम को उस ऑब्जेक्ट की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं रहती और उस वक्त वो मेमोरी हमारे लिए क्या हो जाती है, अनरीचेबल होती है और इमीडिएटली वो मेमोरी फ्री नहीं होती. गार्बेज कलेक्टर क्या करता है? गार्बेज कलेक्टर ऑटोमेटिकली चेक करता है if there are any objects in the heap that are no longer being used by the application. If such object exists, then memory used by these objects can be reclaimed. So these unreferenced objects should be removed from memory. Then the other new objects you create can find a place in the heap. In different other programming languages like C++, programmers are responsible for allocating memory for objects they created in the application, and programmers are also responsible for reclaiming the memory when the object is no longer needed. And .NET provides an object, a namespace system.gc.collect, and function of this garbage collector is to immediately free the memory that is occupied by unused, unreferenced objects. Next, just-in-time compiler. This is the last component of common language runtime. Now let's see what is the role of working of JIT compiler. Let's suppose we have following 4 languages: C# compiler, Visual Basic compiler, JavaScript या JScript compiler, F# compiler, and you have written program in any of these languages. Then a language specific compiler related to C Sharp, Visual Basic or JavaScript, JScript compiler of F Sharp compiler. It is converted into Common Intermediate Language or MSIL, Microsoft Intermediate Language, or simply Intermediate Language. Now this is assembled into .exe or DLL file as I previously told you. Then these .exe or DLL files along with metadata, the necessary information about the objects used in the program, are passed for further compilation to the common language runtime. That common language runtime just-in-time compiler compiles it into native code or machine code and forward it for execution. This is the process behind working of just-in-time compiler. Just-in-time compilation preserves memory and it saves time during application initialization, because when the program fragment is required, it is compiled on that time. Otherwise it will not compile throughout the execution of the program. This is the phenomena for the extraordinary speed of .NET applications. And .NET compiler generally offers better performance as compared to other interpreters. This is brief about the just-in-time compiler. Now, last component of Microsoft .NET framework. As I told you, there are two major components of .NET framework. Number one is common language runtime, and number second is class library or base class library or foundation class library. It is the sub part of the framework that provides library support to CLR to work properly. It is the collection of thousands classes, namespaces, interfaces and value types that are used for .NET application. Base class library supports the following functions. Number one, base and user defined data type, means basic data types that can be integer, that can be float, means having fractional part, date type data, boolean type data, support for exceptional handling. It also provides input, output and stream operation, communication with the underlying system, access data, how to access data, ability to create window based GUI application, ability to create web client and server application, and also supports for creating web services. As I previously told you, there are more than 90,000 packages are available for the support of .NET application provided by NuGet packages in the form of NuGet packages. This is the structural diagram for class library. As you can see, a major portion is occupied by system.web, namespaces, system.windows.form, system.drawing, similarly system.data and system.xml. These classes are logically grouped according to their functionality. Following are the three general categories in framework class libraries. Number one, utility features. Number second, wrappers around OS functionality, and number third is framework. You can see the process of .NET framework. which is again explained here. .NET application are compiled using CLR, and these applications are designed using base class library that is provided by the function. This is how .NET framework works. Now let's discuss what we have covered in today's lecture. In the start of the lecture, we have seen an introduction to .NET, then working of .NET, then .NET features, next .NET components, next component language runtime, that is also called CLR, components of CLR. We discussed four major components, main components of CLR, that is common language specification, common type system, garbage collector, and just-in-time compilation. In the last, we discussed the last component of .NET framework, that is class library. I hope you try to understand this, and I need you to check your textbook for further information. नेक्स्ट टाइम के लिए अल्लाह हाफिज़।